Knowing this near universal pattern helps to assess new brands and existing ones.
What don't marketers know?
Quite a lot. Marketers largely live in an anything-goes world where the latest fashion or fad drives an awful lot of practice.
Segmentation is the recognition you can't serve everyone with equal satisfaction.
This is the Zach Ansbury Show.
Welcome. On today's podcast clip, we have Associate Professor Benedetta Crisafulli from Birkbeck, University of London, United Kingdom.
Yeah, so you've had that's an incredible story about how it all started off. So I guess we'll touch on it, when we move to your teaching aspect, but it seems you have this innate ability to, learn something and pick it up and then translate it to other people. Do you reckon that's you said that you were very good at learning things, but then because you were great grades, but then it seems like your teachers at all kind of relied on you to then help teach other students, even though you kind of were a student.
Yes, I think that's probably a good way to put it. It is a skill that you weren't born with, where you kind of develop, and perhaps the people that I've been lucky enough to be dealing with people that have taught me that and who are very good at that. And so I guess I've extracted, I've learned from them, and then made use of that for myself. So yeah, I think it's a good way of putting that, and helpful in teaching, and I guess in a way also when writing papers, etc.
Yeah, it seems like people who were around you and who knew you well must have picked up that character trait as you're growing up. So that's pretty incredible. So one of the things that you mentioned there during your beginning of your education background. So I'm probably not going to say these words correctly because they're in Italian.
No worries.
So universitia, is that how you say it?
Università. Università.
Is it Di Siena?
Di Siena, yes.
So you did a bachelor's degree in communications and mediation study there from 2004 to 2008. And part of that you completed an honours with distinction. And is it cum laude?
Yes. We did the grading system is you finish with 100 and lode. So it's, so you have, yes, that's how you call it in Latin, I think.
Oh, Latin. Yep, makes sense. So then you moved abroad, which I think is absolutely incredible. I'm, born and raised in South Australia, and I still live here. So whenever I hear of people who travel and move their life elsewhere and explore, especially moving and living their life somewhere else, I'm always fascinated, right? So you moved to Heidelberg University in Germany. That's the old historic town that looks like a magical Disneyland, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, it's one of the university is probably the oldest in the entire country. And that was Erasmus. So I wish I had done more than one semester. But I was almost ready to finish my undergraduate. So obviously when you are self-paid, when you're self-paying for your studies, then you don't want to linger on it. So I ended up doing one semester and then go back to Italy to finish it off.
If anyone's in Germany, I would highly recommend you go there. It's absolutely stunning.
It is.
Is it an expensive place to live because it's so beautiful?
I don't know nowadays, but actually it was quite affordable at the time. It's very concentrated. Everything works around the university. It's full of university students, and they have one of the biggest cancer research centers in Europe. So it's a mix of university and a lot of academics or researchers or professionals that work around the cancer research center that is based there.
Is it similar to, other German towns that, or cities almost, that as soon as the student population's there, the population plummets? Is it similar to that? During summer and winter when everyone goes home to visit?
Yes. It's very much like that. And they have a very vibrant, because it's one of the oldest university, they do attract students from Germany, but also all over the world. They have very specialized degrees in certain subjects. Also, some that have a very much international dimension. I remember a number of friends who were studying Islamic studies or, doing some work in partnership with universities in Egypt and some other African countries. And on top of it, I think they are top in the list for students wanting to do Erasmus there because of how well known the university is in a number of subjects. Law is another one. Yeah.
Now, this might be my Australian coming out in me here.
Mm.
Is it so? It seems to be pretty common to move between European countries to study. Is that part of being part of the EU, having access to migrate around different countries? Is it fairly common, or?
To study your entire degree abroad is probably very true for certain countries more than others. I mean, Italians, maybe nowadays we are getting more used to that, but in general, you tend to study in Italy and then make use of the Erasmus program as a way of having an experience abroad. So definitely Erasmus has worked really well because you can decide either to spend a semester or 2 semesters abroad and you get funding for it. So you get supported with some funding. In some instances where you can't make use of the Erasmus program, certain universities in Italy, but I'm sure it's the same elsewhere across Europe, they have programs where you can do post-degree time abroad. And I think for those schemes, the university where you're going to doesn't have to be in Europe. It can even be as far as Australia. So, for instance, my sister, when she finished her degree, she studied finance. She had a semester-long opportunity to go to Curtin University in Perth. So I think those partnerships are slightly different, but you need to have finished your degree. So it's not in the middle of it.
Curtin University is a great uni. So one of the previous guests, Professor Billy Sung, is at Curtin University. Great guy, that one. I love seeing him every great guy. I think that's really cool. So the Erasmus program, what's the program you mentioned?
The Erasmus. So it takes the name from the university in Holland, I think, but Erasmus.
Government funding or EU funding or?
Yes, is a EU-wide partnership. So even in the UK, until we had Brexit, we used to be part of it. Now we are not anymore. And, some politicians that I'm not going to name decided that we were better off with a UK-specific program that was not limited to European universities, that would be international. And so they called it the Turing program after the name of Turing, who created the computer, etc., and Alan Turing. And the Turing program, we have used it at Birkbeck. So our School of Languages, they have a partnership through the Turing program with a university in Japan. So some students from Japan came and some went there. But that said, I think Erasmus is much longer. It has been there for a long time. It's well established. I think is a big loss not being part of it. And there have been discussions with the new government as to whether we could re-enter in some shape or form.
I think it's an incredible program to be able to fund it and experience stuff. It's, we're slightly biased because we're in higher education, but it is incredibly valuable. And then seeing people outside of your country and mingling worldwide, I think changes the way you think. So you then moved to Kingston University for your master's degree in marketing with your dissertation. What that was for your master's, and that was a master's by coursework or thesis work? Or?
Yes, you do. You do a dissertation at the end of it. And so that dissertation was the one that eventually turned into some kind of conference paper. I can't even remember where we submitted. I think it was EMAC. Yeah.
Sounds like,
and then, so that was postgraduate MA marketing. Mm-hmm.
And then how does that differ to the Master of Science?
In the UK, certain institutions, Kingston was one of them, When you are applying for PhD, it's compulsory for you to do master in business research. It's kind of 12 months of training into different methodologies and different ontologies, etc. So you get exposed to what's out there and how to do them and how to use them, etc. And then you finish off with a dissertation where you need to achieve at least 60% in terms of grade to be able to then progress into 3 years PhD. It's very important that you do well in those 12 months, because that sets usually the dissertation is kind of, is used strategically. You try to do something that feeds into what happens next. So I remember in my dissertation, I started my systematic review of the literature that then I could use in order to progress with my PhD studies.
Yeah. I was going to ask you whether it was, purely like a stats and a methods based, or it was literature as well then.
No, it was everything. So you tend to start with literature. So you tend to do a review of the literature, different methodologies of reviewing literature, using software for reviewing literature. And then it goes into the two paths. But nowadays, one thing that, for instance, I don't quite like is some institutions have a tendency to say, well, if you think you're going to be using qualitative method, then maybe you can go deep into that. And if you think you're going to be using quant, then you go into that. Whereas actually, I enjoyed having to do both, because eventually I got to learn both. So you tend to learn both, and in a very applied manner. Obviously, you can't cover every possible method, but definitely the ones that are heavily used in research, in marketing. And then you finish off with a dissertation. You decide what the shape of that is, whether it's an empirical piece or it's more based on secondary data, or either in the form of literature or in the form of other types of secondary data.
Yeah, I find you might be the same, I'm not sure. Learning those methods is useful, not only for your own application, but, part of our role is reviewing other people's work. And
yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Whether they've applied it correctly, and then interpreting the results is super important.
Yeah.
Methods I don't use very often myself. I still try to at least have a basic grasp of what they're trying to do. As you know, some of the stuff some people are doing is quite complex. And I do very basic descriptive stuff.
Hi everyone, Zach here again, and just a few quick reminders before you go. If you're listening to the podcast and are considering incorporating it into your secondary school or university courses, then please let me know and I can guide you through the process. If you're enjoying the show and getting some insights from it, then please leave me a 5-star review on your podcast listening platform. It would go a long way to spreading the word. If you know someone who would benefit from this content, then I would be thrilled if you could consider sharing this episode and its knowledge with them. And finally, thank you for becoming part of the community for this show.